Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Bipolar Lines, your lifeline for honest, unfiltered conversations about loving someone with bipolar disorder. I'm Brooke.
And I'm Laura, and together Brooke and I are sharing our experiences with you and some practical skills that help us so that hopefully we can help you.
Yes, so to our OG listeners and new, if our show speaks to you, please like, subscribe, follow us on your favorite platform. You can also join our Facebook group, Bipolar Lines Pod. It is a private group. You can post anonymously, but it's a great resource for advice, guidance, and just general conversations.
Yeah, and we just hit 600 members.
Fantastic. Who would have thought? Who would have
No,
thought?
really, it's amazing, and it's very active, and people are very supportive. And I just wanted to make sure it wasn't a negative space. I
Yes,
mean,
for sure.
surely we could talk about negative things, but not make it a negative place. So
Yes.
yeah. Anyway, if you want to hear more from us, though, you can also join our Spotify membership. You'll get 2 bonuses a month, but don't worry, the main feed will remain the same and will always be free.
Yes. So if you want to do that, check out, it's called the Line Holders Club. That's where we get a little more unhinged, unfiltered. You get a peek behind the curtain, so to speak. And it's
Yes.
just another great way to support us. Last piece on support would be if you don't want to join the Line Holders Club, no problem. That's why the main feed is here. But you can also check out Buy Me a Coffee /Bipolar9s if you want to donate there as well.
Awesome. All right. So I'm kind of excited about this topic. I had to be in the right mood for this topic,
Yes.
which is
Girl,
fitting.
same.
So today's topic is we're titling it A Magical Life. And it was inspired by a podcast I listened to on, well, I don't listen to the podcast typically, but I saw a clip on TikTok of a woman named Dove Cameron, and she was getting interviewed on the Call Her Daddy podcast February 4th. And she was talking about how her father struggled with mental health, but she also wanted to make a point to say that it wasn't one faceted. It wasn't all bad. And that in a lot of ways, her childhood was magical. And if you love someone with bipolar disorder, you can probably relate very hard to sentiment.
Yes, yes, yes. When you brought up this as a topic, there was something that there was a fleeting thought that hit my mind, and I was like, I need to remember this. Well, I forgot it, but it just came back to me. And it's this: the number of people that have said to me, but they say it with a little hesitation, with guilt, with some shame, with what there's some feelings wrapped around this. But the phrase is sometimes hypomania is a lot of fun.
I mean, it is.
Yes. And I, it can be for sure.
It can
It's
be
not
if you're not
always.
dysphoric, right?
Yes. But that euphoric part for
Yeah.
sure. And when they say that, I'm like, no, I get it. And they're like, yeah, but it's not good. I'm like, well, I think the difference is you don't want to glorify mental illness. You're not trying to turn it into something that it's not. But I feel like maybe there's a tie here between these magical moments and that euphoric, hypomanic mood state.
Yes, because in a euphoric, hypomanic mood state, it's not just the person that you love feeling happy and euphoric. They bring that mood, they bring that energy to the whole room. That's why a lot of times I say Cody is the biggest person in the room, not because he's large physically, especially not anymore now that he's on Manjaro, but that it's this personality that's just electric and magnetic, and it just like magical things happen in it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm. Jeremy is, he stays more depressed than manic, but when he is in his element, I think of two specific situations here. When he is on the golf course teaching, not necessarily playing, but teaching, his whole aura is different,
mhm.
entirely different. Now that's derived from confidence because he's very good at what he does and he's happy. He's comfortable, he's confident. And then that absolutely drives that mood state where he can, I'll put it this way, this might be an easy way to describe it. He can be on the golf course and teaching a lesson and giving a lesson to a kid. And before he leaves, he has anywhere between 3 to 9 new client inquiries.
Exactly.
And you're like, huh? I'm
Mhm.
like, huh? How? But you were like giving a lesson. And he's like, yeah, it's magnetic. It's truly magnetic.
Yeah. And so I want to read this quote from this woman, Dove, talking about her childhood, kind of describing this. So she said, "My home was also magical. That's a weird thing about living with a parent who deals with their mental health. I don't ever want to make it seem like my childhood was only one thing. It was also exceptionally beautiful and special." And yeah, that hits so hard because, so much of it is the negative. So on the podcast, the woman was trying to like validate her and affirm her and things like that and say, gosh, that's so hard having a parent struggle with mental health. And that's why that caused her to say, like, well, yes, it was, but also it wasn't just that one thing. And I think that's what we all experience. That's why we stay. That's why we love them. That's why we
Hmm.
care. I mean, it is a multifaceted situation.
Yes, indeed. And for the kids, which we're not the kids here, so we can't really speak to that, but we can speak to what we know our kids have experienced. But I think I'm going to make a callback here to a prior episode where I think I've told you all that in episodes or whatever, Jeremy has called me a fun sucker, right? You're a fun sucker. And it hurt, but after a while, I figured out why it hurt because why am I getting upset over being called a fun sucker for real? But it dawned on me that I was like, oh, because if there's fun in our family, he's usually the one to initiate said fun.
Interesting.
Therefore, I fit the fun sucker, even though I'm not trying to suck the fun out of things. But when there's fun things to happen sporadically, it's him. It's
Yeah.
absolutely him.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, with us too, I find that things that we do tend to be very last minute.
oh, for
We
sure.
do have things that we plan, but when you have those last minute adventures, that also adds to the magic. Like when he just gets in a mood. So I will say too that I always joke because, he's neurodivergent and I'm not. And I'm like, I don't know why anyone would want to be married to me because I find myself very boring. I'm very toe the line, follow the rules. And he's like, yeah, but you're always willing to go. Like you're
Hmm.
always along for the ride, which is true.
Yeah.
Like if you
Yeah.
get me going, I'm going to be there
Right.
within reason, as long as we're not manic spending into oblivion. No, that's different.
Right. Right.
But yeah, like we're gonna go along, and so when you have those spontaneous adventures, I think that that adds to the magic even with the kids, right? It's like,
For sure.
"What? We're going camping? Let's go!" Like, "What?
Yep.
We're going jet skiing tonight? All right, let's do it."
Yep.
So it is very magical and fun in that sense. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that in that hypomanic state, a lot euphoric hypomanic state, Cody, like you said with Jeremy, has some sort of like magnetism about him. Like, for example, at a Nuggets game once, it's just like everything's going right. Like, somehow we get free sodas. We get the Snuggie that was thrown out by the mascot. He's the one that catches it. Like it's just, yeah, it's hard to explain, but it's like this momentum. And my son was describing it even with basketball the other night where he was just making every shot and he was like, maybe dad is right. There is something about getting in the zone. And it is like
Hmm.
that zone when everything is just going right and working out for you. And that happens sometimes in a euphoric hypomanic state.
Yeah. And I think you feel the energy shift when they're
Yes.
in that mood state. So then you absorb said energy shift. And I think for me, I would describe it as it feels lighter.
Yeah.
Like it's fun,
Interesting.
it's light, and it doesn't feel like I think in those moments I'm not concerned about what potentially might be happening because it's just this like pool to be present in the moment and it's light. I
Hmm.
don't know how else to describe that, but I think because of that, you feel it. So then, like, you're more aware and present for whatever's happening so that you're just kind of like flowing and existing in this magical space and being pulled into that magnetism that they're exuding at the same time. It's just, if you know, you know. If you
Yeah.
don't, you're probably like, what the hell are these people talking about? But I don't
Absolutely.
know.
That's why even before we started this podcast, I was like, okay, I'm not going to talk about this unless you relate to it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I think you're right. I think if you haven't been in this situation, you're not going to relate to this. But also, just romantically falling in love with someone like Cody was the highest high. Like, I have never felt so loved, adored, revered. It is literally like the movies, like where you see
Yeah.
the most romantic love story. That's how it felt falling in love with Cody.
For sure.
Do you feel the same?
Yes. I was having a moment where I was like, Jeremy just sent me something literally last night. I'm going to pull it up on the book face, as he calls it. Let's see. So it says, you know what's wild? You weren't part of my plan. You were better than my plan. One random day you walked in and everything shifted. Now you're the voice I want to hear when life feels heavy, the face I look for in every crowd, the home I never knew I was searching for. You're not a chapter, you're the whole book. Very sweet. Very sweet. But what I said to him was, I said, and you are absolutely right. We, neither of us, like we were not part of each other's plan, but that didn't matter once we connected. He said, nope, all bets were off. And that's the truth. Once you've connected with your person, for me, when I met Jeremy, I saw him the first time at a karaoke bar, and he to this day we still laugh about it, but I thought he was gay. His jeans were ironed, Laura. Like he looked like he took up so much longer to get ready than I did. And I was like, a sad, sad story for me.
He's so fine, and here he's gay. That's
I was like,
unfortunate.
so unfortunate. And then I learned he was not. And I met him out at a bar several months later, and he was there by himself throwing darts. And I was there with a high school friend of mine who was in town. I hadn't seen her in years, and I I could not like tear myself away from this man at
Oh,
all. And I was just looking at my friend, and I was like, "Are you sure you're good with this? Are you sure you're okay with this? Like, I know you're here to visit me and us, and blah blah blah." And by us, I mean me and Addie. And she was like, "No, no, it's fine." And like from that point forward, we were it. And
yeah.
I think I told my mom, let's see, we met, that was, the day after Thanksgiving, 2008. I think I told my mom after Christmas I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna marry this guy for sure."
I could totally relate. Like when I met Cody, I was on a rebound from I was about to be married. I don't know if you know that about me.
Yes, yes.
And so I had broken up with that guy. The wedding was all set. Everything was bought for. We were ready to go for a January wedding. And then things happened, broke up with him. And then I turned 21 in that same period. And so I just wanted to go to a nightclub.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in an AOL chat room of all things, just asking people where's a good place to go on this particular night, blah, blah, blah. And he was one
Mhm.
of the people that answered me. And I was not there to meet people, but he was because he had just moved to Denver from Arizona. And so he was like, wait, like, send me your picture. And I'm like, I'm not in this to meet guys. Like, if you want to meet
Yeah.
me, go to the club you just recommended.
Right?
Uh, he he was like I did send a picture that was terrible. I can't even believe he thought I would have looked attractive in that. It
Oh,
was, like, really bad. It was the only one I had. You know, it was not the digital age it is now, and,
right.
he sent me his right before I logged off, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Well, I can make an exception."
You're like,
So
"Maybe this time."
yeah, so I didn't go that night to see him, but I did make plans to go see him later in the week, and I told my friends, but all of them were like, "What are you doing? You can't go to some guy's house," and he didn't have a car because he couldn't drive, and they're like, "You can't go to his house, like, and you only met him on the internet. What do you? That's a serial killer in the making." And I was like,
Mhm.
"I don't know. I did it anyways," and I met him, and yeah, I remember standing on that porch when he opened the door, and I was like. Literally, this song wasn't out yet, but if I could recreate it in my mind now, it literally was like, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. Like,
Yep.
yeah, it was all over. It was all over after that, and I remember, like, trying to deny it so hard too, and just being like, "I can't marry this guy, he's Mormon. My parents say Mormons are a cult. He does this, he does that." I, like, spent so much time trying to be like, "You can't like this guy," but I knew too, Brooke, that I was gonna marry
Yeah.
him.
You just know.
Yeah, I just knew.
I mean, and at that time for me, I had Addie. I mean, she was 3 at that
Mhm.
time. So it's not like I wasn't looking for anything serious, but after our first night together, we went to different clubs. A fight broke out, and he was like protecting us the whole night, which was very, very sweet. But not to sound cheesy, but it was like, isn't that what you want? Like, you want to feel protected, you want to feel safe. And it's like you see in the movies, like he wasn't trying to get in a fight back with the people. He was just making sure we were okay, etc. So it was very, very sweet. And then we met at a Starbucks within the week of that night that we were out together. And I remember sitting there, he was sitting there, and I was like, "I don't wanna play like, this isn't a game to me. Like, if you're interested, then I need you to be interested." And he was like, "I'm beyond interested." And I was like, "And you know I have a kid?" And he was like, "Uh-huh, I met her." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you did." Long story short there, briefly met her before. And I was like, "So I don't I'm all in." He was like, "Me too." That was it.
Wow.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that that's another thing that we talk about a lot because caregivers need the help or like partners need the help and the support on the hard times and when it's
Mhm.
difficult. But that's the thing why you stay is because as difficult as it can be, like those highs can be so high. Like they literally, like Cody is literally the most romantic guy I have ever met. And he remains to this day. Like the amount of TikToks I get daily telling me some sweet nothing that's burned to my ear is every single day. He sends me something sweet. And he'll even do that manic. I like, my God, I remember in 2023, it was in February, and he was literally calling me the most horrible names that day. And then he had a card that he made with a big heart and like, I will always love you, and then bought a card for the kids to give me. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what do I do with this? uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, yeah, just like you're describing Jeremy too. So that's the part that doesn't get talked about. And that's
Mm-mm.
why you stay because you have this connection and they are amazing. And there are so many times that it does honestly feel like a fairy tale. And
Mhm.
no, it doesn't feel strange to say that you loved feeling protected because
No.
that is like that's what I want too is to feel safe and protected. And yeah, he provides that too.
Sure. You know, we had, our 17th anniversary March 14th, so a couple weeks ago, and the night before, and you know about this, he was he was in a mood, man.
We weren't sure how your anniversary was gonna go.
Full recto. So, it was like, he kept saying, like, "Oh, maybe we should rethink this trip. I don't want it to be a waste of money." And he was saying that intentionally because those are lines that I have said to him when he is feeling some type of way, like, "Let's make sure this is what we wanna do, yada, yada, yada." So, anyway, he was like, "I think we should just cancel." And I was like, "No, I think I'm ready to go, blah, blah, blah." Anyway, he woke up the next morning and was very apologetic. "I'm so sorry. I'm a jerk, blah, 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 blah." Point is, we go to Atlanta, Georgia for a weekend, and we had 2 things planned, 2 experiences planned. One was the serial killer exhibit, which is, like, my jam, and I learned a lot about him that day, actually, and I can't well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I learned a lot about him that day, number 1, and it was because he knew a lot about a lot of serial killers, which was surprising to me. He's a smart guy, super smart, his IQ's ridiculously high, but I couldn't figure out if he took the time to learn about the things we were going to go see so that he could talk to me about it and we could, like, talk about things, or if he already knew it. It felt new to me because I'd never heard this before and I've known the man for almost 20 years. Like, what? So that was incredibly sweet. Like, wow, you even took time to learn about where we were going and, certain things about serial killers that are in the exhibit. That was very cool. The other part was the Golden Girls. I had to look up there because I lost the name. He loves the Golden Girls, always has, always will. There was a Golden Girls exhibit, I guess, there as well. He didn't take the time to look into what he wanted to do, which was go to this Golden Girls exhibit. And when I was starting to dig into it, there wasn't anything available that he would want to go to. There were different types of shows, lunches, dinners, etc. And the ones that were left weren't ones that he wanted to go to. So my point in saying this is he put a lot of effort, in my opinion, and work to make sure my experience was everything that I wanted it to be and then some. And he didn't care about what he wanted to do. He said that that's what he wanted to do, but he spent his time worrying about me,
Yes.
you know?
And that's the thing is that they feel so deeply Like, on one hand, that's to his detriment with that depressive
Mhm.
piece, but then on the other hand, it's to our benefit when
Mhm.
they are loving you that deeply and intensely, and I think that's what is so hard, is that that gets taken away from you. That will not last because they have bipolar disorder.
Right.
So that's, kind of what we're dealing with. But I wanted to do a positive podcast because I feel like we were kind of talking about the weeds and being in the
Yeah.
weeds, and that's part of it. But I wanted it to, yeah. When I listened to Dove, I was like, you know what? I want to do that too. I want to balance it and be like, I don't want it. I don't want people to think it's this one thing because it's not.
Correct.
Like there is
Yeah.
so many amazing
Mhm.
moments that far
Mhm.
outweigh the bad moments.
Yeah. And it's so hard in the moment when you're not experienced when they're in an episode, when to grab onto those good
Yeah.
times because it's so heavy
Yeah.
when things aren't going well and or if there's just conflict in general or you're stressed about whatever, which is why we started this episode saying like we had to be in the right mood state. Fair.
Yes.
It wouldn't hit the same if we tried to make this episode when we're both not feeling good about our partners. Not that
Right.
we feel bad, but you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
just you have to be in the right state of mind
Yes.
to pull up those feelings. So, yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up for sure. It's a great episode. And I do believe that listeners get it. Not all, but some. And no shade to the ones that don't. I say that because we spend time in the beginning when we don't really know anything justifying the relationship. Okay. Yeah, but I love them. Yeah, but they're amazing. Yeah, but this. Yeah, but so we spend that time justifying. And then at some point it kind of shifts to where, oh, we're learning more. So we know more. But then we focus on the illness because we're learning more. We know more.
Mhm.
And we're trying to, use the pieces of the puzzle and create the puzzle. Right. So that's where we shift and that's where the focus becomes. And then it shifts again to where I think that's where we are, where we've done phase 1, phase 2. Phase 3 is like, okay, we know all of it. We've justified it. And now we're in a space where we're at peace and that we're comfortable in our relationship because we get it.
Yeah.
We don't have to do the rest so that we can enjoy it when it's magical, so that we can take those trips when they want to take them, when they're sporadic and spontaneous and that we can get excited, we can be in the moment, we can be present and we can love them back. It's
Yeah. And not be scared. I remember early on in the relationship too, I was scared. I always called it, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, which is not how you want to live your life. So, yes, like we did the time, we had the experience, we did the learning, and now we
Mhm.
know when those difficult times happen, we're able to deal with them more easily because we realize that it's not gonna last.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
That's the
For sure.
worry. People are always like, because it is a worry, if you haven't been through episodes. I remember asking, like, "Will I ever get him back? Like, will I where's my Cody? Where did he go? Like, where will I get him back?" And I always have gotten him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, at
Yep.
some point, so
It might take longer than you think, but yeah, you will
yes,
for sure.
yes, it might take longer than you think, for sure, and every day feels so long when you're in it.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. I think the most magical moment for me and Jeremy has been when we are at a theme park, specifically Disney or Universal. If you know anything about my husband, you would know. He loves Disney and he loves Universal. He loves theme parks, okay? And he knows more about theme parks than I do true crime times 50, okay? He knows everything there is to know. But one spring break, 7, 8 years ago, we took my parents with us on a trip to Universal. And it was the most magical spring break. It was the most magical vacation that I had ever been on in my life. And that I'm putting on par with going to New York, which was my favorite. It, New York was my favorite, but this trip was magical on all the levels. And I think I told you earlier that like if I could paint a picture for you, think of a theme park and the paved roads you walk on, and just picture my husband happily jogging, through or down the street, holding hands with our kids, while turning around with like a bouquet of flowers in his mouth and just like the most magnetic and excited and happy individual on earth, truly. And it was an amazing trip. My parents had never been there. He was being their tour guide, while also like, so he needs to go to the bathroom. I got her. And he just, he'd pick her up and put him on his shoulder. It was just magical
Yeah.
in all the ways.
Yes. Yes, I think listeners can relate to that and relate to that picture, and your kids definitely feel that energy. We were once just in it's also why I don't feel the need to take, I think, exotic trips or exotic locations, because if they are in that mood and you are in a happy place, they
Mm-hmm.
bring it to you. You're not
Mm-hmm.
searching for that. Like, we went to just Breckenridge once, which is a ski resort just up in the mountains here in Colorado, not far away. And they were having a dew tour, which was a snowboarding event where people were competing. And so there was more people than normal at Breck that year. And he was in this euphoric, hypomanic state. And we were also getting our pictures taken, like family pictures. I had hired a
Mm-hmm.
friend to come up with us. And she grew up with two parents who had bipolar disorder. And, he was euphoric for most of that trip. When he had to take pictures, he became very dysphoric because he did not want to take family pictures. But everything was opening up. He got this signed for Jace, and this happened. And, like, it's just so hard to explain unless you're in it. And like as a kid, it's got to be like the most exciting thing ever. Like, look what
Mm-hmm.
my dad got me. I got this signed. Like, oh, I met this boarder. Things like that. And so I
Mm-hmm.
remember my photographer friend being like, wow, I can really see why it was so fun to have parents who had bipolar disorder. And I can also see how difficult it was to be the spouse. Because when he was dysphoric, it was like, just take the pictures. Like, we just need to
Don't
get.
want her to.
But yeah, it is like this like oscillation between
Mm-hmm.
magic. Oh, it's just, yeah. But I can picture that Disney trip for sure and understand
Yeah,
it.
it's just one of those things. And, listeners who maybe absolutely can relate, but that you're in the thick of it right now because your person's in an episode, just hold on, right? Like,
Yeah.
remember those moments. If it helps you, if it doesn't, don't do what you need to do. But just realize that like those moments are so important to us. And I think it takes time maybe to recognize how important they are. But also, if you don't know why your person was maybe so over the moon excited on this one trip, no matter what it was, big, small, like now you know.
Yes.
Now you know. And I do think it's important to talk about the kids element real quick, which is like, I know as parents, we worry a lot about how they're going to be affected when our people are in episodes. I get that. It's absolutely valid, true. But also, they are affected by these mood states, the euphoric hypomania, in very, very positive ways. And they become core memories for them because they're not just, they're exciting, they're spontaneous, they're whatever the case may be, right? Like those memories exist, like you were talking about from Dove. It's not just all bad.
Exactly.
You have to take a step back and realize, wow, like the number of times, as example, before my husband was diagnosed, the number of times that we went to a cabin in Gatlinburg, Sevierville, if you've never heard of it, it's just a very touristy town. But stopped counting long time ago because it was a lot, like a lot. So, and it wasn't this elaborate vacation. It was just he had to get out of the house and he knew that, but he turned it into this trip to a cabin with games and ice cream, just fun. It was just
Yes.
fun.
Yes.
I would never think to do that. And I am neurodivergent. And I'm like, you want to do what? Why? Because for me, I need it to make sense. So I'm not going to come up with those things. I'm going to plan trips that we want to do. Yeah, that's fine. But like, I'm not that spontaneous, fun pushing person at all. I've never been that way. So, yeah, I mean, just live in the moment with them and encourage the kids to live in the moment as they get older. It's different. It's harder because, at least for me with Zoe, she's constantly like, is he okay? Is this okay?
Yeah.
But last week was her spring break, and Jeremy calls me again while I'm at work, but he called me, he didn't text me, and said, um, "Zoe's been amazing around the house. She's helped. She's done yada yada. Like she really wants to go somewhere. Can I take her to this hotel in the Gatlinburg area that has an indoor water park? Blah blah blah." And he did.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. That's exactly what stuff Cody will do too, and that is going to be a core memory that they're just gonna remember forever how their dad was so fun and spontaneous. Like, there is no way my kids or your kids grow up and don't say that about
Yep.
Jeremy and Cody. There's just no
Correct.
they will have other things to say, but that will
Sure.
be part of it.
Yep. My mom, I think she texted me and she was like, "Is Jeremy okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, he's doing okay." And I think I had told her that they had gone to the hotel or whatever. And she was like, "Is that going to be okay?" And I was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to make people understand that, but like, I did not have any concerns about his state of mind when he took Zoe to the hotel because he wants her to enjoy it. He wants her to have a great time, and he's going to do
Yes.
whatever he has to do to make that happen. And she
Yes.
had a fabulous time,
Mhm.
1000%.
Yeah, I can just think of so many little things that I know our kids have had fun on. There was this one time we went to South Padre, which is just an island off of Texas, and, the island is just known for getting around on carts. Cody in this golf cart, the whole vacation could have just been Cody driving a golf cart, and it would
That's
have been
funny.
fun. And
Yeah.
it's just, he's singing, he's, like, waving at people, like, he doesn't get embarrassed anyways, but especially when he's feeling that euphoric hypomanic, he's definitely not embarrassed, and even though I'm embarrassed, it's still super fun. Like,
Yeah.
you're just having
Yeah.
so much fun.
I think that you also have the most fun on the car trip to wherever you're going to because of the mood that they're in.
Yes.
I mean, so many different memories we have on just simply driving to wherever we were going because they were hilarious. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I fully get that.
Yeah, so those are core memories that they will have too, and I wanted to talk about it because I just loved how there is a dual aspect to loving someone with bipolar disorder, and the dual aspect is that it's not all bad, and in fact, it's amazing, like, literally
And
amazing.
magical.
Magical, yeah.
That duality exists, and that is what causes so much confusion. But just know there is a duality, and it's not all bad.
Yep. I even think about when I had our children, like when I gave birth to both of them, he was sobbing with happiness. But you feel that the whole room feels this magnetic, like happiness exuding from him that I don't even cry. And I was bawling just because just so happy. And of course, you're happy anyways when you have your baby, but things like that, just like that extra emotional piece just feels magical, like even
Hmm.
more than it would have been. So I don't know. We could go on and on.
That's so true, though, because Jeremy, we have these cards. They're called conversation cards. Bought them on Amazon, but they ask questions that I wouldn't think of asking. He wouldn't think of asking because we've been together forever, right? But one of them was, "What is one moment in time where you felt like the most love towards your person, or like you felt like you fell in love with them again?" And I was like, "When Zoe was born, hands down,
Yes.
hands
Oh,
down."
I got goosebumps because same.
Yes, it was the most magical. And of course, Jeremy was like, "Well, that's because you had nobody for Addie." I was like, "Shut up. That's not my point. That was not my point."
No, it's true, and just watching him be a dad, that was a whole other thing, like,
Yep.
watching how he loved them as intensely as he loved me was the best feeling in the world as a mom, knowing that they were also just feeling that intense love that he
Yes.
gave me before we had them.
It's intense, it's magical, it's comforting, it's a security blanket. It's like this enveloped protection, and there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
Nothing. Anytime I've had surgery, same thing. Nothing like it. And
Yeah.
it's just the sweetest, most genuine magic thing. It's hard to speak to because it's just, even when I had my wrist surgery, when I was being wheeled off after being drugged, I was kind of like out of it, but not. But I heard him say, "She's my favorite person in the world and I can't do life without her. So please take care of her." And it was
Mm.
just like, and then I was gone. But
Oh,
it was just so sweet in the moment. I was like, it's just a wrist surgery. Like it's not that
yeah.
serious, but also to him, it was very serious. And yeah, I mean, just It's intense. It's magical.
I'm gonna have to get woo woo on you.
Do it. I like the woo woo.
I'm slowly changing your ways. You're noticing numbers. What was your anniversary date? 314? Yeah, and then your room number was 314, and Brooke texted me and was like, "What do you make of this?" I'm like, "Girl, you know what I make of this. I know your anniversary's gonna be awesome now."
That's so
There's no
funny.
question. Yeah, so they say that you could have soulmates. I might have talked about this before. And
Yes.
soulmates are people that you were meant to meet to fulfill something. So like you would be considered one of mine because we're doing this podcast together. But then your person, like the one person that beyond a soulmate would be considered your twin flame, and they're a mirror of you. And that's why twin flames a lot of times can't stay together because there can be so much friction with them. But Cody and I definitely relate to that. And even when he's manic, he's drawn pictures of a heart and like two hearts kind of molding into one and saying like twin flame, like when you know, you know. I don't know what else to say.
Yep. When you know, you know. And
Yeah.
maybe this episode will give people clarity, I mean, on some level, or something will click in their brain, or however you want to phrase it, that if you don't have that with your person, and you don't feel like if you're listening to this, maybe watch it because you can see our faces, you can see the dynamic of how we're living in the moment and reliving these magical experiences. But if you don't have that with your person, maybe this is going to be helpful. Or maybe you don't think that you don't have it with your person because you're in the thick of an episode. So
Hmm.
use this as a reminder to go back to this space and see if that is there for you and your person, because it is possible. And this is truly why I say to people on social media and in person, like, everybody deserves love. Everybody deserves happiness. Everybody. And it is possible. It is. Even if other people that I've spoken with, they leave or the relationship that doesn't work, I'm still telling both of them, you deserve happiness. You
Yeah.
deserve love. You are not more deserving or less deserving. You're equally deserving of love. When you were born, you became deserving of love. Period.
Period.
When you find your person, you just know.
Yeah. You just know. I love it.
Yes.
This was so fun to talk about the magical experiences loving someone with bipolar disorder. And, maybe we do a part two at some time just to revisit and
Yeah.
uplift and, like
Love
you
it.
said, remind people to go back to those times when times are
Hmm.
difficult, and also to enjoy those times when you're experiencing them and live in the moment as well, instead of waiting
Yes.
for the other shoe to drop or being filled with anxiety that this won't last.
It can be very difficult, but it's possible for sure. But yes, another great conversation. We will definitely do a round two because I think it is important, and we'll share little other different stories that we haven't shared because, I mean, and we'll have more stories
Yes.
because that's the reality of our life. So, yes, we drop episodes every other week on Wednesdays. If you join the Line Holders Club, then on those opposite weeks, then you'll get another bonus episode there. You can find us on the YouTube, Bipolar Lines Pod. You can find me on TikTok at break_the stigma. I'm actually wearing my shirt today. And Laura
Nice.
on TikTok at the BP Spouse.
Yes,
What
ma'am.
else?
I think you got it.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here, for supporting us, for showing up for your person, but for showing up for you as well. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.